Hello and welcome to my series on communications. Today I have the fantastic Amber Patterson here. Amber is the communications director for Cherry and also a communications officer for the Family Housing Association. Hi Amber, it's fantastic to have you here today.
Sophie, thank you for asking me to join you.
Well, I'm going to get straight into it. Tell us a little bit about your background in communications.
No problem. I think that I came to communications on a very indirect path because it wasn't something that I aspired to do. I wasn't really aware of it as a job, I don't think. Growing up, you hear more about being a teacher, being a doctor, things like that. But English was just something that I was really good at, so I decided to do that at uni. When I was at uni, most of the work that I produced focused on gender, and then I went on to do a master's in gender. So leaving uni, I knew that those were my passions, were marginalised people and writing, but I didn't know how I could combine the two. And thankfully, I just had a look around and was really pleased to find the role of communications officer at Family Housing, because that sits in between the two. It's helping the local community, but also using that affinity for words as well. So.
The next question then is about being a woman in the communications industry. Are there any sort of challenges that you faced as a woman in the communications industry, or any sort of barriers that you faced or think women in general face?
Probably the most literal way I could respond to your question is acknowledging that even though communications and PR are female-dominated spaces, they're still very much led by men. That was something that I was aware of until recently, but it's just very interesting to know about. I think it's the same with chefs. So women do a lot more of the cooking at home generally, and yet it's men that are the famous chefs and getting all the money for that work. And so in communications, yes, women are putting a lot of their time on the line for communications work. It's still the men who are making the decisions for how everything is shaped. And I just think that it would be more beneficial if that weren't the case, just if there was a more even playing field behind the decision making.
Fantastic. I think you've led us on nicely to our next question there then. Obviously, as you mentioned, Cherry is made by women and is, sort of focusing on other women and sort of non-binary people and other marginalised communities. Have you found it hard to sort of convey information directly to women in a sort of male-dominated world?
I think that we're very lucky to have a very strong team who are women. So it's more natural for us to create that kind of content. But in the same vein, I think when you're directing content to people who you are acknowledging as marginalised genders, you have to be very deliberate about what you're putting out. Because there's a lot of misinformation and sadly on the internet, a lot of hate, which I think is really important to steer clear of and just do your best to empower everyone in the best way that you can. And making sure that you're being inclusive as well.
Again, I think you've had some really, really fantastic points there. So just to finish up, I'd love to ask you about what you think your biggest achievement is in communications.
I would definitely say, even though my day-to-day job is as a communications officer with Family Housing, working with Cherry, because it started off as a passion project, so much of my heart and soul is in that. And in the last year, we have started publishing an online magazine, which just has been one of the most amazing experiences. And obviously the art that we publish is so entwined with the writing. There's nothing else quite like it for me. That really speaks to me. So yeah, I'm really proud to have been a part of that.
Well, Amber, I'd like to say a big thank you to coming on our profile today. You've been absolutely fantastic to talk to, and I'm hoping that we can have you back for another chat in the future. I hope you enjoy this series of women in communications, and I hope it's really useful and sort of inspires you. Until next time, I'll see you then.